Welcome. I am so excited to be here with you today. We are going to be discussing the priestess path and five really very specific aspects of that path. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Renee Massey. I'm a psychic medium. I'm also a feminine embodiment coach, and I actually serve my clients in an extraordinary way, serving from my own priestesshood, which has honestly been years and years and years in the making. I began my journey very young. My first real awakened experience at 11 years old, my second really awakened experience at 15 years old. And it really did set me on a very, very profound journey of self actualization, healing, embodiment, clearing, cleansing, activation, learning, growth, development, and stretching myself in ways that I never even knew was possible, stretching myself in ways that I didn't even know was available from within me, meaning I don't know what I don't know. And if you've been in my world, at least for a little while, you will know that this is something I say quite often, that I don't know what I don't know, because I also believe in, that humbleness of the journey. I do not profess to have all of the answers or to know all of the things and to be completely clued in on all of the nuances and all of the ways. And so I don't come here to you as this being who feels like she has all of those answers for you. I'm deeply contemplative. I love prayer and meditation, journaling, and just really connecting with nature and so many different energies and spirit, all the things. So a lot of what I have what I've done on this journey, what I've endured, what I've accomplished, who I've become is sourced from a variety of different techniques and methods that I have worked through over the years in my journey. Um, and so being here today and really talking about, the journey of priestesshood and being on that path, there are just really like five very, very strong things that I think have stuck out to me throughout this journey that I feel is like if you can connect with the information, the energy, my words, if it's lighting something up within you and you can feel something being activated or recognized, something is bubbling to the surface, like stay with me, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, make sure you follow, and there's going to be a lot of really interesting things that come up for us. But I really want to focus on these very primary, like five key points of being a priestess on a path, because I do find that some of us who have gone through an awakening, maybe we feel like I want to be a priestess, and I want to, I want to be the oracle. I want to be ceremonial. I want, like I can just feel like that's where I'm going. And that's perfect, but I do want to stress that, the path of priestesshood is not just a basic initiation for me anyway. For me, this is my truth. If you align with a different truth altogether, then, please take what resonates, leave what does not resonate. Like I said, I'm not this person that professes to have all of the answers, but I do hold a very strong amount of wisdom within me, especially based on everything that I've watched and I've experienced and just all of the different things that have happened along this path, right? I'm not going to say that if you've just started this journey that you should never step into the path of priestesshood. But what I am saying is that to be on this journey is to recognize that it is a journey that is going so deep within yourself, that there is a deep well within your heart and your spirit and your soul and your mind and your body. And I feel like just like that symbol of the Vesica Piscis, everything is like flowing into each other. Everything is overlapped. Everything is connected. And so knowing that truth, it's like, you want to ask yourself, how well do I feel like I am connecting? How well do I feel like I'm being truthful and honest in my beliefs and my power? Am I speaking my voice? Am I really holding this energy? Am I embodying it in the way that I have thought about it? Because oftentimes what happens, and this is, this is just being human. There's no problem being human. But what happens is that we tend to have a very strong ideology about something, right? Like, it's like if I were to ask you, well, I mean, if you believe that you're worthy, of course this will be available to you in your mind. If there's something that you desire, and we're talking about self-worth and the embodiment of your self-worth, typically, in my experience, most people will respond very quickly with, like, I absolutely know that I'm worth this. I believe in myself. But I also have found that that belief, that ideology is not necessarily something that has quite landed within the body. And so that means that it's disembodied. It's not, it hasn't been actually actualized within the physical vessel. And that tells me that the embodiment piece has not actually landed in the nervous system. It hasn't quite landed in the unconscious part of you. And the unconscious part of you is holding a lot of the egoic drive and the shadow selves and the inner child wounds. And so a lot of beliefs do stem from this part of you. I think most beliefs actually stem from this part of you. And so that also makes it difficult for us to land, to allow it to really land and to be in the body without having like all of these other obstructive thoughts and feelings and beliefs around it that are actually creating so many other identities, and have so since you were quite small. So it is a very deep journey. It is an unraveling. It is a building up of it. It's so many different things, but there are 5 things. Like, we don't have to go into all of the different things. You do not have to be psychic. You do not have to identify as a witch. You do not have to have a very deliberate and specific practice that you are devoted and dedicated to, or a goddess or a god that you are supremely dedicated to. That, I believe, is definitely part of it. It's definitely like components. We'll call it like branches off of the tree. But I believe that, like, if we were to really look at this as a tree, as I feel in so many cultures across the world, it has been the ultimate symbol of life, right? Like the tree of life, the family tree, like the tree represents so many different things. In Nordic culture, it's the Yggdrasil tree that, holds all the 9 realms and all of these different things, right? So we want to recognize that maybe in the trunk of the tree, there are really like these very 5 core principles that we want to align with. And then we can allow ourselves to kind of branch off into different directions and feel ourselves being naturally, spiritually guided to learn or embody those pieces as well, right? So let's talk about what a priestess actually is, because to me, I love ancient cultures. I study history. It's just a very, very important thing for me to be able to reach back into the past and to learn about all of the different things that occurred, and with who and what they did and what they said and where they were, and the impact of their own life and their own journey. Everything is interwoven. And so just because something happened 2000 years ago or 500 years ago doesn't make it irrelevant at all. Like, there is a power and a potency there, because we also have to remember that during the times when, these priestesses were very, very active, working in the temples and, channeling, healing, being the mouthpiece of spirit, the oracle, there's so many different ways that a priestess can function. But when we look back on the times that, these women were being ordained and anointed as priestesses, there was no technology, there was no Weather Channel, there was no Googling anything. And honestly, to even have access to a variety of written records of history, that may not have been available depending on the culture or the time that these priestesses were priestessing, right? So that's why I also find it very interesting how these lineages have flowed through time, because if you look, it's actually very interesting. So if you look up the word priestess, in the dictionary, I'm actually just going to pull my phone up really quick because I really want to make sure that I explain this perfectly correct. I actually did this last week because I was putting together all of this information of what I wanted to share today, and also, future things that I'm putting together from my followers and my audience. Okay. And so what I decided to do was I said, you know what? Before I even explain priestess, I'm going to look up the definition and I'm going to see exactly how, let's see, what is this? Oxford. This is the Oxford definition. Priestess, noun, a female priest of non-Christian religion. And I just thought it was really, really, really interesting because of the fact that in the definition itself, it is basically explaining like any woman who basically has the ability to perform these sacred rites, these duties of a spiritual path, but you can't be Christian because in Christianity they do not allow priestesses. And that's just a very interesting thing that I'm not going to be talking about today because of, I want to stay focused on the 5 pillars of what I believe is supporting that priestesshood, right? But I find it very interesting because it changed everything in history. It changed everything in history. It changed everything for women in history when Christianity became the sole religion of the Roman Empire. So much dictated throughout Constantine's rule was based on a very, very, very patriarchal, masculine viewpoint. Everything actually was filtered through a very patriarchal and masculine lens. And what happened was women lost their credibility. They actually became eradicated, filtered out, and erased from the history books in their abilities to perform sacred acts, sacred rites, and to actually embody leadership within a spiritual capacity. And so that to me is priestesshood, is being able to share, teach, lead, channel, support, to have a very, very strong base of knowledge and wisdom that feeds that energy. But you're also just embracing yourself as a channel of love, of wisdom, of compassion, and of grace. And that is actually something that is so needed in the world right now. So it's very exciting to me that I've reached a place in my own journey where I'm really ready to have these conversations because I've been living this journey for so many years. Over 25 years, I've been living this journey. I've been walking this path, but I've never really shared my own priestesshood with other people by talking about the priestesshood. I've not talked about myself as a priestess. Most of the people who have been in my world over the last several years have known me as a clairvoyant, a psychic, a spirit medium, a channel, a healer, a witch. But never once have I allowed into the conversation priestess. And I had to really ask myself why this was so difficult for me. And I mean, I can go into some past life stuff. I can go into different things in my upbringing. I can go into definitely quite a lot of that stuff. But the truth is that when I really meditated on it and I sat with myself and I asked myself, why has this been such a difficult thing for me to really openly share with other people? There was this version of myself that I felt come forward and express that I was protecting her. I was protecting her because she is probably the most sacred thing that I hold within me. My gifts, being a psychic, being medium, mystic, healing, energetic work, all of the different things that I've done, ritualistic, ceremonial. I've never put really a label on that. And I realized that because I didn't put a label on that, I also recognized that what I was doing was hiding so that nobody would access that most sacred piece of me. And so to actually unveil it, to put it out there, to openly share who I am and all of the beauty and the love and the power and the wisdom that is sourced through it, I could see that I'm ready to step into that next level and I'm ready to embody her fully and let her speak her truth because just like a mother protecting a small child, right? Like I have two children and I can totally see how parts of myself in fear for what this beautiful, soft, vulnerable, but so powerful archetype within me, I wanted to keep her very safe and I wanted to keep her kind of behind closed doors unless it was a very close and intimate setting with other people, meaning it takes a lot for someone to express the fullness of who they are in the rawness and the vulnerability, exposing parts of themselves that they hold sacred and that they want to protect. Like that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot. So that's where I've landed though. And that's what has really inspired me coming forward and speaking more intently and and intentionally about it. So let's get into, this whole journey of the priestess path. And if you feel like this is actually landing for you, if you feel like this is resonating with your spirit. Okay. So there's five. I'm definitely going to be looking down from time to time because I wrote five things down and I have some notes here. So I don't want to forget anything. But so the first thing that I really wanted to connect with in the priestess path is that everything is connected. And what I mean by that is, yes, everything is connected, right? Everything is energy. Energy is literally all around you right now. Like there is energy all around you. And then, of course, we have these very like dense forms of energy. And, like my cup is a dense form of energy, my phone, my pen, I have a magazine and books over here and oracle cards and stuff like that. These are all dense forms of energy. I'm a dense form of energy, which means that the energy that's moving in these more solid like forms move at a different rate of speed than the energy that is all around you that you cannot see and can't necessarily grab. You can grab it, you can manipulate it, but of course, you probably can't see it the same way as you will some other dense objects, right? But also, and it's not even just the fact that everything is this interconnected thing, that there is no separation, but it's also the fact that how we separate things. So that's actually like the main point of this, that everything is connected, is the fact that I can remember a time very, very early in my journey. So I was probably like in my, I don't know, late 20s, late teens, early 20s. And I remember having like really gotten into guided meditation and meditation in general. But what happened was I had not really cleared a lot of the stuff that I needed to clear at that time, right? Like I had been on a healing journey, but there was still a lot of healing to do. I was only like a couple of years into the healing journey at that time. And so what was happening though is I really wanted to start doing like these guided meditations and transmissions and stuff like that. And they were very transcendental and they would take me out of my body and they would take me into these ethereal realms where I felt so comfortable. I felt so everything was interconnected, everything was interwoven. There was no separation between anything. And then the meditation would be over, and then I would have to come back into my current reality, which I suffered from absolutely debilitating, horrific anxiety. I was diagnosed with a panic disorder, an anxiety disorder. I was also agoraphobic, and I had PTSD. So all of these things were diagnosed, and it was very hard for me to actually even hear those diagnoses because I felt like it weakened me as a person. That me on this spiritual path who knows and feels and understands so many different things that are not related to the physical realm couldn't handle the physical realm. And that's actually that doesn't help the situation, right? Like I can't just live in this constant meditative state. I can't be traveling to these ethereal realms and traveling and going into all of these different spaces energetically if I can't even handle life itself in this realm. And so my point here is that it's not to say that like, oh my gosh, if you suffer from depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, postpartum depression, like if there is any mental health issue there, this does not impede your ability to step onto the path of priestesshood. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we cannot function on this path if there is a massive dichotomy between the way that we're living our life and the ideology of what we see our life, like what we want in our life. And so I'm going to break this down a little bit more because I'm not sure if I'm explaining it correctly. But let's say you work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and then you have the weekends off, and then you have like national holidays off or something like that, right? Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, you are in your career mode. You're in, that part of your life, the part of your life that is very much based in physical responsibilities and taking care of things and carpooling and showing up to work on time and running a budget meeting and, having to do all of the different things that you do in your regular everyday life that are part of your adult responsibilities. And then maybe a couple of nights a week or on the weekend, you step into this path and you step onto the journey of your spiritual development and evolution and all of the things, right? And that is where I'm going to say, like, we want to watch that separation. We want to really start integrating both of these worlds together. And that doesn't mean that, like, if you are running a budget meeting or any type of meeting, that when you get to the boardroom, you tell everybody, we're going to sit here and we're going to for 5 minutes, or we're going to say a silent prayer, or we're going to do breath work before we go into it and, give our gratitude to, the goddess and Mother Nature and Mother Earth and, Father Sky and all of these things. What it does mean is that it's always within you. It's a piece of you that is very much alive, is very much present. And I can totally relate to the fact that, there was a separation and there were things that I did not want to actually even bring her into because I wasn't sure how that was going to work. So things that happen with like family or friendships or expectations in your regular everyday life versus you being able to go, to a full day or full weekend retreat or a yoga class where it's like you only allow her to come, that you only let the genie out of the bottle for that small period of time. I'm going to invite you to really start thinking about how to integrate these things together because there is no separation. Yes, the job between, being at home with your kids, being, at work, running your business, going to family functions, traveling as a family, like all of these things are very different and they will pull on different parts of you. But at the core of who you are is a divine being, is a sacred guardian to all that is holy and beautiful and wonderful, and she is within you. And so recognizing that you have the ability to be her in all of these situations. But when we think about it as it's outside of myself and it's performative, that is where the separation actually comes from, because your ego is saying, like, how can I allow the priestess to step forward when I have all of these things on my work schedule and I can't stand it. And I have a deadline and I'm stressed and I'm overwhelmed. Let her come in, let her be activated from within you and reach for her wisdom to guide the process. That is a way that you can start really integrating her, is looking at the experiences that you've had in your training or in your meditations and different things that you've read or watched, like whatever this journey looks like for you, how that feels, and ask yourself, how can I allow that version of myself to start becoming more present in other areas of my life, right? And then you can incorporate things like, if you'd like, wear a necklace with an evil eye on it to work. People might ask, but who cares? Because this is you. This is your journey. This is about you. It's not about anybody else. But I understand that sometimes people get fearful of going into their place of work, especially if you're like a corporate executive, especially if you are like a doctor or a lawyer, or, like you have a prestigious position. And so you don't necessarily want other people to know who you are outside of that role. But there are very tasteful and easy ways that you can actually go about that. And, it could just be a pendant that on a necklace that is maybe tucked a little under your shirt, a symbol on a bracelet that is not necessarily seen by all, a picture in your office of like a beautiful flower or a tree or something of sacred geometry to just remind you of who you are on this path is really, really, really important and critical. And it's only going to support further integration to blend everything together and dissolve the separation between these worlds. Okay. So that was number one. Number two, embracing your softness. This is a challenge. This is just such a challenge. And because us women, we women have often been guided through masculine leadership and patriarchal authority. And therefore, I don't know a lot of women, especially like going into their 20s, like if you're going through college and trying to figure out your career, getting married, having children, really getting integrated into your adult life. I don't know a lot of women, and I haven't known a lot of women. Like I've known a lot of women, thousands and thousands of women. I don't know a lot of them who were actually able to embrace their softness until they realized that they literally just couldn't function in the way that they had been functioning anymore. And that means that what we have developed as a society and what has been absorbed into the minds and the hearts of women all around this world, in most places, many places, is that we are valued based on what our deliverables are. We are gauging our own self-worth based on what we are contributing, what we are producing, what we have accomplished, and the evidence of that accomplishment being very clear and legible for everybody to see. And, oh, wow, look what you did. We're all very much trained for that outcome. And it starts in the formative years. And so not blaming anybody, not getting negative with anybody about this. But you can recall when you were probably in school and, everything is graded. Everything is graded. It's like subjects that you don't even like, subjects that you will never even use in your life. Like for me, like trigonometry, algebra, like these are things that I was not good at. And I also knew deep within myself that this was not going to make or break me in my life. Like, oh my gosh, if I don't learn this, I'm not going to become anybody. I'm going to become a bum. I'm never going to get a good job. These were not things that were in my own mind, but I could see how they were in the minds of others. And I could see how, me not doing as well in certain subjects had created a lower self-worth or value for myself. And so we push and we got to work harder and we've got to try harder and it's got to be better, And so that's a very, 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 very masculine strategy to get something from A to B. Yes, we do need action. Yes, we have to take steps. Yes, we have to create movement in our lives. But at the same time, the way that we have been taught to recognize our worth and our value based on what we have been able to accomplish is actually incredibly incorrect. Okay. So just because somebody might be a high earner and then you have somebody over here, like this is an analogy I've used many times, is imagine the surgeon that works in the hospital, right? Like the surgeon comes in. This surgeon makes a lot more money than the custodian or the person who works in the cafeteria, right? Like the surgeon earns a lot more. The surgeon has invested a lot more time, energy, money into becoming who the surgeon has become. The custodian or the cafeteria worker, probably not so much. But at the end of the day, does that mean that one person has less value than the other person? No, it does not. It just means that they are living in a different journey. Like their path is different. What they're doing is different. Who they are is different. What they want might be different. How they're getting to where they're going is different. But to think that one person has more value over another, then that would be incorrect. If it's a situation where, there's a terrible crash on the side of the highway and the custodian and the surgeon happen to be driving in the car together and see the crash, the surgeon is probably going to be the one that you want, getting out and being like, how can I help? What can I do? Right. Versus the custodian. Well, the custodian has a lot of value as well, especially in the hospital, because without the custodian or the cafeteria worker, it slows down the entire progress of the institution. So it's like everything matters, everybody plays a role, everybody has a part. And this ridiculous hierarchy of who is better or who is not, and who is more worthy and who is not, and who has value and who does not, is actually incredibly incorrect across the board. But it has become a very strong foundational context. It has become a very strong context for the collective unconscious. And so this actually makes it so much harder for us to soften. It makes it so much harder for us to put ourselves in these vulnerable positions, to the point where we feel like we just have to go through life like being hard and being tough and being strong because it's competitive and there's comparison and I can't let somebody get ahead of me, right? Like I need to be first and I need to be on top and I need to be the one that gets the promotion and I have to be the one that gets the raise and I have to be the one. And even though I can absolutely identify with certain aspects of my life where I have felt that way. Like when I was younger, I could definitely see myself in certain situations in my job, my workplace, where, we were like, we knew that somebody could get a promotion. And I felt like I was absolutely the best candidate for that. And I was not going to shy away or tuck my head under or avoid or bury myself in any way, hide behind anything in any way, when I knew that I was the one that was absolutely the best candidate for that job. But in all of that stuff, we often lose sight of the softness. And so it's not to say that you're not going to be competitive by nature or, wanting to put yourself at the top of your field. But it is to say that that is not the only lane for you to be moving along. There's a time for, I think, really being assertive and being, pushing something and really activating something, charging it with energy and moving it forward. There is another thing of actually just sitting in the patience, sitting in the softness, sitting in the emotions, the allowing, the reception, the peace, the harmony, the waiting, the love, the gratitude, the just being able to look around and see the abundance, being able to like be a soft and gentle place for somebody else to land sometimes, instead of feeling like you have to be in control all the time. So the control part, like for those of us who have control issues, my clients, they know me as like a recovering control freak, because I have absolutely had so many control issues in my life where I just feel like I have to have control. I have to have control. And it's not like control over other people. It's more a lot like, especially, I mean, I just told you about like my mental health history. My control comes from a place of like really desiring safety. And so a lot of the times when people are in very active control mode, I would pump the brakes on judgment there, because honestly, a lot of the times when people are trying to overly control and overly manage a situation, or the people that are involved in it, typically what's happening is they are just trying to grasp safety. They're trying to create more stability and security within that situation. And they might not realize why they're doing it, or that they are, putting a lot of that controlling energy out there. So the invitation is to really go so much deeper into this place right here. This place right here, there is like this magical, beautiful, wise, loving compass that guides you in the most beautifully aligned way. But I find that most of us haven't really connected with that voice, connected with that truth, that very, very genuine, authentic space within ourselves. It's deep. we have so many protective layers on the outside of us. We really do. Like, if you pay attention, like, we have so many protective layers. And I think that's also why we get disconnected from like the embodiment of holding certain archetypes or roles within ourselves, but we can think about it and we can be like, yes, I know that this is true. Yes, I know that this is real. But then the actual of like merging that and integrating it into the unconscious, into the body, that's where we have like a breakdown. And so it's like we've got to be able to either strip away or be able to merge into through all of those external layers, those initial layers, so that we can get down to like the heart of the matter, the thing that's lying between, like underneath those layers. And think about a diamond, right? Like, think about think about, oh my gosh, all of everything that surrounds the diamond before the diamond is even found. Like they must have been really surprised, those first people that were like searching and they're chipping away at the coal and they're doing all the things. And the coal has a really great purpose. And then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, what is this? This amazing, beautiful, glistening, clear, crystalline diamond. Oh my God, the most precious gem crystal on this planet that, I mean, people like diamonds, but it is hidden. It is a hidden treasure amongst all of this very dark, black stuff in the cave. And you have to really dig around through layers and layers to find the diamond. And that's basically you. It's like there's layers and layers that are protecting the treasure, just like I was protecting the priestess. I had to go down deeper and deeper and deeper and really allow certain things to be very clear, very, 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 very transparent and truthful within me, raw within me, to let her be seen, let her out, let her be known, and actually talk about her, right? So that softness is not just about like, oh, doing nothing. I'm just going to have a lazy day and I'm going to binge watch my favorite series for the next like 5 hours. It's like there can be softness in that, but the softness that I'm talking about is really when you are not so much on guard, you are not defensive, you are not reactive, you have a very intentional and deliberate way of merging with life and allowing yourself to be very present in your life without having to hide or deflect, or put up these safeguards to protect you from what other people might be saying or thinking or expecting or wanting from you. And being able to actually hold the energy of disappointment, holding the energy of making a mistake, holding the energy of failure, holding such a deep level of love and compassion and kindness for yourself and empathy for yourself, forgiving yourself, that is the softness that I'm talking about. And it is completely available to you. It's not like you have to be a certain kind of person to access this. Every single person on this planet has access to it. It's just sometimes it is buried beyond certain traumas, certain ideologies, and very deep seated beliefs that probably got placed there a very long time ago that you might not even be aware of, because it could just be living in the shadows. But the shadows are also creating obstruction for you to see what softness is there for you, what's available within yourself. Okay. Number 3, creation through ritual. So this is one of my favorites because to be a priestess, I do believe that part of that power and that purpose and that path is really about being able to embrace ceremony and ceremony, ritual. I mean, they're pretty interchangeable, but whether it be something that is a set ritual or something that you just allow yourself to flow with in ceremony, I think that it offers us an opportunity to be very intentional with energy and the softness, and the integration of all things, right? Like I said, for one, it was like everything is connected. Number two, embracing your softness. I feel like when we are allowing ourselves to go into ceremony or practice a ritual in some way, that those two absolutely have to be there, because what the level of energy that's being applied through ceremony and ritual is going to actually want all of you. And I feel like if we are, just we're performative in certain aspects of our life, if we're not really being completely honest about, our feelings and our thoughts and our truth, and being able to share certain things, the ritualistic part, the ceremonial part, it's only kind of like half done, So it's like we want to be able to bring everything that we are, the wholeness, the entirety. We are an emissary of sovereign, spiritual, sacred rights. And so, with that being said, when we are in that journey, we want to really be very clear. We want to be clear in our hearts. We want our minds to be clear. Everything is energetic. Everything is vibrational. Everything runs off a frequency. And so if there's a frequency of like, I'm wobbly, I'm shaky on this, I'm not really sure, that is going to impact the ritual. But the ritual doesn't have to be, you having this very beautifully ordained altar in your home that you sit and you pray and you have candles and incense and you're doing all of the things. You can totally do all of those things, but if you're not ready for it, if the space doesn't allow for it, if you just know that it will be difficult for you to maybe take on some of the things that you really would like to in ceremony and ritual, then what we do is we find other ways to do it. Okay. Wow. Okay. Most of us spend so much time rushing around from thing to thing to thing to thing. And so when we're able to really bring ourselves into the center and be intentional with something, that in itself is ritualistic. Okay. So it could just be like, maybe somebody who has to be at work for like 9 o'clock in the morning, and they have kids and they're busy and they really want to be so much more intentional with their practice. But at the same time, they know that they spend their mornings rushing around like a crazy person to just get everybody out the door on time. And so this is where I'm going to invite you to pump the brakes, and I'm going to invite you to establish a different routine for yourself. Many of my clients have expressed to me that they just don't have time. They just don't have time to be that version. They want it so badly, but they just can't break out of the routine that they already have because they don't have the time. And so what I've guided many of them to do, some people work better in the morning, some people work better in the evening, but really teaching them how to carve out that sacred time for themselves so that they can have that very sacred routine or ritual. And so I can remember a particular client who was, very busy, an executive, has kids, younger kids too, that were in elementary school. And she was really diving into, her journey with the sacred feminine. I was supporting her in working with very particular goddesses and being able to meditate and channel their messages and really like invoke that goddess energy that she desired. Like that's what she wanted. So I was helping her do that. And so in order for her to really step into it, she had to make time for it, and had to really pay very close attention to how much she was rushing around and how much she wasn't giving back to herself, but she was giving to everybody else. And she wanted to be on this journey. And I was like, you have to understand that to be on this journey means that you are putting yourself at a completely different place, a different priority in your own life, a different priority in your life. You cannot be the last one on the totem pole in this journey. Okay. So if you have a baby, if you're pregnant, if you're nursing, if you have little kids, like I know this is going to be like, whew, how am I going to do this? You can do this. Um, when you have a baby, it means that when the baby is sleeping, and that's your time to rest, and that is your time to replenish, and that is your time to have a very, very, very simple and sacred routine for yourself. For those of you who have kids that are in school and you have work and you have to be out the door, if you like to do this in the morning, I'm going to invite you to get up like at least an hour and a half earlier than you normally would. And that is because what I do is, especially when my kids were younger, they're older now, so it's really not the same. And plus, I don't have a job outside of the house anymore, so my routine has shifted, and I'm able to be a little bit more flexible with my ceremony. But I would get up before the kids, and I recommend my clients to do the same thing. It's either you get up an hour and a half early, or at the last part of the day, you reserve, 90 minutes for yourself. Either way, you've got to let people know this is my time. This is what I'm focusing on. This is important to me. This is a huge priority to me. We don't let our kids, go hungry, or put them at risk or put them in danger for our ritual. But what we do is we set up very specific parameters so that we can be intentional with our journey, because there is something that magically and drastically shifts when you are an authority of your own time and energy. You are self-governing, you are actualizing your agency, and you are stepping into your priestesshood by letting people know what you are and are not available for. And so that ritual can look like, for me anyway, getting up, lighting incense, pouring my coffee, sitting down with my journal or a book that I'm reading. I read a lot of spiritual books. I love, 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 love Megan Watterson. If anybody has ever read Mary Magdalene Revealed, and right now I'm currently reading her, I think it's her newest book. I'm not actually even sure, but it's the newest one I've seen, and it's called The Girl Who Baptized Herself, about Thecla. She's known as Saint Thecla, but Thecla had a very, very interesting journey. And so that's a quiet time for me. It's contemplative, it's ceremonial, it's sacred, and it doesn't involve anybody else but me. And so just lighting the incense, lighting a candle, maybe putting an oil in the diffuser, journaling, reading a book, sitting in prayer or meditation, like that's a ritual. That is something beautiful that you can do for yourself, whether it be at the beginning of the day before everybody gets up and starts pulling on your energy, or at the end of the day when you are completely done taking care of everyone and now you're ready to pour back into you. But to step onto this path of being a priestess, creation through ritual is an extremely important part of who we are and what we do, because it is also a part of moving energy, manifesting, setting intentions, healing, clearing, alchemy. All of those things occur through ritual and ceremony. Number 4, silence and stillness. This is a very interesting one that I noticed I was stepping into, really, like, without even realizing it. I don't know how many years ago. Let's see, we've been in this house for almost 8 years, and I feel like it was probably shortly after we moved into this house that I noticed that silence was a beautiful medicine for me. The world is loud and noisy. Social media is loud and noisy, the news, all of these things, kids, like everything in life, even the things that you love, watching your favorite movie, watching a series, listening to music, listening to a podcast, listening to this video. It could be really good for you, right? But it's still a lot of noise. Like, I would recommend that, like, after you're done with this video, you sit with yourself in silence and you journal about what came through. You journal about what came up. You journal about how it made you feel, what you recognized, where you were able to really connect with, what fears came up for you. Where did you feel resistance? What about what I'm saying right now made you say, like, I can take this, but I'm not taking that, you know? All of these things are interconnected. So this is our opportunity in the silence and in the stillness. And whenever I see the most beautiful stuff with like the priestess and the energy of the priestess, when she is just sitting in like this prayerful, contemplative, meditative silence with herself, like there is power. Do you not look at her and think to yourself, like, wow, she's powerful? Like you could just feel the power oozing out of her. And I think it's because most of the people that we have witnessed in society and in politics and in just, you know, bigger areas of life, they are loud and they have very strong opinions and judgments, and they create a lot of noise, a lot of static, a lot of distortion. And I find that in the silence we get to hear the truth, which can also be very scary. It can be very like, I don't like, this is when all of the weird thoughts and the weird fears and the weird feelings and all of these things are going to start revealing itself within your consciousness. But I also find that that is like, you're teaching me. My thoughts are teaching me. The emotions are teaching me. If I have a weird discomfort, like I have had this terrible pain on this side of my neck. I don't know what I did. I slept a certain way. I did a certain thing. I don't know. I'm 43. Things get weird. But um, but what happened was people can have all of this awareness, right? Like all of a sudden you have all of this awareness, all of this information is flooding your mind, flooding your consciousness. And it can feel really off-putting, or like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to, I can't connect with this right now. But it is the way that you're able to find out what's really going on under the hood. You know, if you start hearing your car making a weird clinking noise and you bring it to the mechanic, he's going to lift up the hood and he's going to say, I got to take a look and see what's going on here. But I think that over time, as you start to get more practice and you start to really align and connect and allow these different voices and emotions and feelings and little quirky whatevers to reveal itself to you, that is where you're being guided to do the work. That's like you're being offered medicine right now. You don't necessarily have the same level or access to that medicine when you are sitting and watching the nightly news, or, you know, you're at your kids' soccer game, or you're having to bring, you know, your friends home from the restaurant because you guys went to happy hour. These are not the times in your life where you have clarity. You're just kind of going with it, right? You're just doing what you need to do, being who you need to be. But then there's another version that is so deep within you. Remember that diamond I talked about, that treasure that's hidden away in the heart space? Tuning into that heart space, tuning into her wisdom, we've got to peel back those layers. We've got to be able to penetrate through those layers so that we can access the truth. And those voices, those sensations, those fears, those racing thoughts, all of those things are not actually anything even remotely close to what is happening in the wisdom and the deep well of love within your heart. It is actually separated from that altogether, because the ego actually stands alone. The ego cannot see the soul. The ego cannot see the spirit. The ego is kind of functioning as a rogue all on its own, and it has a very deliberate purpose. And there are a lot of ways that the ego can service in really positive ways. You know, like there are some ways that the ego can be absolutely servicing to us. However, there are also ways that the ego can be very inhibiting and derailing and destructive. And, you know, we make ourselves small because of that voice a lot of the times. And so that silence, that stillness, that ability to go within yourself and to be able to move past those voices and those discomforts is really such a huge part of this journey, because you can't hold the space and the energy for priestesshood. without being able to access something so much deeper within yourself. Okay. That truth, that truth within you, it is undeniable. Okay. When you access it, you can feel it because all of a sudden it just feels like, yes, of course, versus the other voices that are always telling you that you've had too many calories today, or, you should probably call this person back since you hadn't gotten back to him yet. Or, just the different ways that our energy gets pulled on a daily basis. Like, oh my God, I forgot to text that person back because I was driving. Oh, I forgot that I have to make an appointment for my kid to get a haircut, or, a checkup or whatever. Oh my gosh, I forgot, that bill is due in 2 days. I better get that out in the mail or whatever, so there's all these different things that are pulling on our mind and pulling on our energy. But deep within you, there is something that is so unmovable, unshakable. And that is the part that you access in that stillness, in that silence. Okay, number 5, finding the good and beauty in yourself. I think this is actually not something that can be bypassed at all. I don't think that any of these things can really be bypassed, but I think that it's interesting how far we can get in life and in our relationships and our business and, a lot of different situations in our education without actually feeling good or liking ourselves and finding the beauty in who we are. Isn't that very interesting, right? But I have found that, when you want to stretch into something much bigger, whether that be like a new level in your business, a new level of income, a new level of clients, a new kind of relationship that like you've only dated the kind of people that just didn't treat you all that great. And then all of a sudden you're like, I am ready for this person to love, honor, trust, respect with me, communicate with me, be completely truthful and transparent with me. If that is what you're calling in, I want you to imagine who you have to be in order to magnetize that into your field, right? Because everything is vibrational and the law of attraction is a very, very real thing in this universe. And so if you don't like yourself, if you don't say nice things about yourself, if you have a really hard time even receiving a compliment, somebody comes up to you and they're like, oh my gosh, you have the most beautiful green eyes. And I'm like, yuck, like, no, yuck, look like, no, gross, biley eyes. And not take it as like, thank you. Thank you. I do. I love my green eyes. I do. And I do. I love my green eyes. But I know that there are definitely times in my life where based on how I felt about myself or what I was thinking about myself and different experiences that I may have been going through at that time, made it really difficult for me to embrace a compliment, And this is a really big piece here. It's actually, I understand why it was the last piece now, when I was like contemplating what I wanted in this, it was like, I want 5 pieces in this, 5 pillars to really support a foundation. And I sat there and I really contemplated because there's a lot of different things. I mean, if you could see my notebook and all of the different things that I have written down and in my journals and, so much stuff, so much stuff. And to pick 5 of those key pieces that I felt were the most relevant for this material. This last one, like, you contribute every single day, but how often do you give yourself credit for what you've contributed? And I have absolutely been guilty of this, where there have been times where I had planned like, oh, I'm going to write a blog. I'm going to put a video together. I'm going to record on TikTok. I'm going to do these certain things to create content, send an email, whatever. And I'm getting ready to do stuff. And then all of a sudden I would get a phone call that I have to pick up my daughter from school because she doesn't feel well, And it's just like, My plans now, oof, oh my gosh, to break those plans for me is really difficult. But of course, I'm going to go and take care of my child. But there is that feeling of, well, what about me? What about me? When am I going to be able to do what I need to do? What am I going to do what I want to do? Right. And in those days, though, because I could feel myself at the end of those days feeling like I didn't get done what I needed to get done. I wasn't who I wanted to be. I didn't accomplish what I really desired to accomplish. Right. But, life comes with a series of plot twists and pivots and all sorts of things. And so, what I have learned for myself to do on those days that just don't seem to add up to what I wanted them to add up to because something sidetracked me, distracted me, detoured me, plot twisted, pivoted, whatever. I can see the different things that I have contributed and they don't have to be big. And that is where I would love for you to focus. So this actually happened last week where I was actually getting ready to do this video. And I was going back and forth with my coach, actually. And just as I was getting off with my coach, I got a text message from my daughter saying, I have a really bad headache and I feel nauseous, and I really want you to come and pick me up from school. Well, of course I'm going to do that. Like I'm here. I wasn't in a session. I didn't have anything that was super pressing, even though I really wanted to do my video. And so it completely sidelined the rest of the things that I wanted to get done that day. And I remember like at the end of the day, taking my shower, letting all of the energy just kind of wash down the drain. I'm releasing, unhooking, detaching, untethering, like anything that is non-serving to me. I'm releasing it, letting it go down the drain. And then I remember going into bed and then really just feeling into the gratitude for the day. And I had like this little moment of like, didn't do everything I wanted to do. So I said, no, 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 no. You know better than this. You've done this a million times. I want you to actually extract all of the things that you did today. Start from the beginning. What did you do? Okay. All right. So I woke up, I journaled, I had, I did my gratitude. I meditated. I read a little bit in my book. I took my dog for a 2-mile walk. I was able to get some content done and I was able to engage and respond to certain people on social media. And then it was like, I emptied the dishwasher. I folded a load of laundry. I was able to pick up my daughter from school because she needed me. I provided dinner for my family. My home is clean. My family is safe. My family is healthy. I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good. And if I try to make it anything other than that, that is a different version of myself that's trying to grapple for control, trying to find the evidence that something isn't working, trying to make this storyline fit that things are hard and I just can't do it and I just can't quite get there, right? So I have to really be able to be very discerning and access the beauty in everything that I possibly can. And there are some days that that's hard. There are some days that that's hard. And there are some days that it feels almost effortless and you're like, I can easily list off all of the things that I'm celebrating right now from this day. And so, but this is a personal journey. You know what I mean? Like this, I'm not going to be knocking on your door and being like, what did you do? Did you thank yourself for everything that you showed up for today? Were you kind to yourself? Did you love yourself? Do you see the beauty and who you are and what you represent and how you contribute to this world, even if you didn't do something huge today? I'm not going to be doing that, right? I could, but you would have to pay me for that to be like, hey, checking in, just want to see how you're loving yourself today, right? But it is a personal journey for yourself to be able to discern that there is always something that has been contributed. Like you're alive, you have breath in your lungs, you have a heart, a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful heart that is beating in your chest, that is moving and circulating all of this energy through you, that you are energy, you are love, you are beautiful, you are divine, you are sovereign, you are sacred, you are an emissary of sacred rites from ancient lineages. Like that's got to be something that you can access on the really great days where it's easy and the harder days when it is not so easy. But that's because, like, when you're able to do that on the easy days and the difficult days, it means that you have basically been able to establish this very strong anchor and tether within your heart that you can just be like, I can get there. I know how to get there. I can access it. I've already created the tracks and, to access it as soon as possible, to get there as soon as I need to be there, and land in it, land in your heart. Use the eyes of your heart to see yourself in the world, right? And we do need so much more of that, because the rage and the hate and the anger and the separation and all of these massively contrasting and oppressive views among humanity, that is not ascension. That is not growth. That is not wisdom. That is not evolution. It is staying in the old system, the old paradigm of the collective unconscious that has to fight for control and keep people down and suppress the truth, suppress the authenticity of something that is much bigger, much greater, and much more potent than what most people are available to even access. And that is love. That is divinity. That is sourced from a place within you. It does not live outside of you. You can find it outside of you. Every time you look at a tree, every time you hear a baby giggle, you can access it in a beautiful flower, in watching birds, create a nest. I mean, there's so many different ways. The waves of the ocean, the way that the leaves change color in the fall, like that is, I can see godliness in everything like that. But that does not live on the outside of me. When I see it in everything, it's because I can recognize it from within myself. It's very hard to see the trueness, the depth of the beauty, the authentic beauty in something, the authentic love in something, the authentic potential in something, when you haven't been able to actualize it within yourself, right? So just want to make sure I have it all. Okay. Yes, I have done it all. So being able to hold space for you, love yourself, take care of yourself, be willing to go deeper into that well within your heart. I am not saying that this is easy work, but I don't think stepping into the path of being a priestess should be easy. Just like becoming a surgeon shouldn't be easy. I don't think that everybody should just have access to all of this stuff because they're like, well, that'd be cool. I think I'd like to try that. I think it's important for you to find out why this is important for you. So this is something you really want to ask yourself. Do I really feel like being on the path of the priestess is for me? And feel it in your body, yes or no? Can I feel myself being pulled to explore more of what this path means? Am I willing to go deeper into my own heart and in my own spirit, and actually changing things within my own mind to be stronger on this path? Am I willing to put myself as a higher priority on this path? Right? These are all really, really, really important things to ask yourself. And I mean, for me, I have no judgment for where anybody is at on this journey, how they feel about this journey. Like I have worked hard enough learning how to love myself and embrace myself and not judge myself and forgive myself and not punish myself and hold myself in grace, hold myself in just kindness and compassion. And that has probably been, like, just that alone really required so much of me to be willing to shift, to be flexible, and to not have to know what it was going to mean when I came out on the other side. because there were parts of my journey where I did such deep healing that I can remember having such a desire for that healing, but then also being like, what's going to happen when I heal this? Am I going to be the same person? Will my husband and the people that I love in my life, my children, like all these people in my life, like, are we still going to have the same kind of relationship once I have cleared this horrifying thing from my body, from my consciousness, from the imprint, of my soul? What does it mean for me? Who will I become? What does that look like? And I can remember just feeling trepidatious about it, like wanting it so bad, but then fearing not knowing what the outcome would be. And so, just that alone, I want to give you grace because we don't know what it's going to look like on the other side. But I also believe it's a very ongoing journey. So, are you willing to participate in an ongoing journey with you at the center of it? That is that is a timeless question, right? Can I put myself at the center of my journey? And that's not to be selfish. That's not to be egotistical or cocky or arrogant or conceited in any way. It's really, honestly, it's you being able to take responsibility for your sovereign journey, your sovereign soul, your divine path, the sacred wisdom that you hold within yourself, knowing that it's there, knowing that it's worthy of your time and energy to be excavated, right? So, if you have felt like this has helped you, if you have felt connected deeper into priestesshood, into that path of stepping into priestesshood, even if you're just teetering on the edge, even if you're just in a contemplative state, or if you've been on this journey and this just kind of reaffirms and validates where you're going and where you've been and how it's going for you, like, please put it in the comments. Please subscribe and follow for more. And I would genuinely like to know how this information landed for you, how it made you feel. And I can't wait to release the next video. Have a beautiful day. Bye for now.